my girlfriend said about her male best friend who'd been drinking. I didn't argue. I just packed my things while she was tucking him into my side of the bed and left a note on the kitchen counter. Enjoy your patient. 3 months later, she called crying. He'd ghosted her after sleeping with her best friend. I was already engaged to someone else. It wasn't the first time Mark had needed Chloe, but it was the first time she offered him my side of the bed. We'd been together for 3 years. I'd seen her through the stress of her layoff, cooking meals while she sent out resumes night after night. I'd driven through a blizzard to be with her when her dad had his heart scare, holding her in that sterile hospital waiting room for hours. I'd even, against my better judgment, tolerated Mark's constant, looming presence in our lives, her charismatic, perpetually crisis-ridden best friend from college. The freelance photographer whose art was always on the verge of breaking through, whose landlords were always unreasonable, whose exes were always crazy. Chloe's personal charity project wrapped in a leather jacket and good cheekbones. The call came at 12:37 a.m. on a Tuesday. My phone buzzed first, lighting up the nightstand. Mark. I let it go to voicemail. A minute later, her phone rang. I heard her murmuring, the bed shifting as she sat up. Oh, Mark. No. Where are you? That's so many. Are you safe? A familiar, heavy feeling settled in my gut. I stared at the ceiling, already knowing how this would play out. She hung up and turned to me in the blue-tinged dark. I could see the performative concern etched on her face. That was Mark. He's at the Hollow Bar. He says he's had way too much to drink to drive, and he can't afford an Uber all the way to his place. So he'll get a cab, I said, voice flat, or sleep it off in his car. He's a 30-year-old man, Chloe. He's upset, Alex. His gallery show was a disaster tonight. Nothing sold. He's devastated. She was already throwing the covers back. I told him to come here. I sat up. Here? Why? Because he needs a friend. He can't be alone right now. He can sleep on the couch, I said. The line we'd established and held for 2 years. She was out of bed now, pulling an extra pillow and the gray fleece blanket from the linen closet. She didn't look at me. It's not good for him to be on the couch. He needs proper rest. He's emotionally fragile right now. A cold clarity began cutting through the fog of annoyance. Where is he supposed to sleep then? She finally met my eyes, clutching the pillow to her chest like a shield. He's sleeping here tonight. You can take the couch. The words hung in the air, absurd and offensive. I actually let out a short, disbelieving laugh. You're joking. Don't be heartless. He needs someone to watch over him in case something happens. What if he gets sick? What if he has an anxiety attack? You know how he gets. Watch over him. In our bed. The emphasis on our felt pathetic even as I said it. It's not like that, Alex. She rolled her eyes, the ultimate dismissal. God. Why are you always so insecure about him? If you really loved me, you'd understand. I'm just being a good friend. He has no one else. There it was. The twisted logic. My boundary was insecurity. My discomfort was a failure of love. Her prioritization of another man was noble compassion. And if you really loved me, I said, voice quieter now, dangerously calm, you wouldn't ask me to leave my own bed for another man. She stiffened. The mask of concern flickered, revealing a flash of impatience, frustration that I wasn't playing my assigned role in her drama. I'm not asking you to leave your bed. I'm asking you to be understanding for one night, to help someone who's hurting. But I guess that's too much for you. She turned toward the bedroom door, ready to go wait for her wounded bird in the living room. Well, I'm asking, I said. So what's it going to be? She didn't answer, just walked out. I didn't follow. I sat on the edge of the bed, staring at my hands in the dark. The front door opened 20 minutes later. I heard his slurred voice, overly loud, her shushing him with a giggle in her tone that was never there for my rough days. I heard the shuffle of feet, the thump of a bag being dropped. I stood in the shadow of our bedroom doorway, watching the scene unfold in the living room like I was observing it through glass. Mark was slumped in the armchair, looking the perfect picture of tragic artistry, tortured soul drowning his sorrows. Chloe was kneeling beside him, placing a glass of water on the side table. "I just feel like such a failure, Chloe," he mumbled, dragging a hand through his hair in that practiced way of his. "You're not a failure. Your work is brilliant. The world just isn't ready for it." Her hand was on his arm, rubbing small circles. "Come on, let's get you settled." She helped him up. He leaned on her heavily, more than necessary. As they moved toward the hallway, toward our bedroom, his eyes drifted over her shoulder and met mine in the dim light. There was no drunken haze in that look. It was clear, sharp, and brimming with triumph. A quick, almost imperceptible smirk touched his lips before he let his head loll back onto her shoulder. In that moment, I understood everything. This wasn't about him needing help. This was about him marking territory, about proving he could take my place in my own bed with a single phone call. And Chloe? She was letting him. She guided him into the bedroom. I stayed in the doorway, watching her lead him to my side of the bed, the side I slept on, where my book still sat on the nightstand. He collapsed onto it with a theatrical sigh. She bent over, pulling the comforter up to his chin with a tenderness I recognized. "Try to sleep, okay? You'll stay?" His voice was a pathetic mumble, but his eyes were still sharp when they flicked to me. "I'll be right here. I'm just gonna get a damp cloth for your forehead. You're a little warm." She brushed his hair back like he was a child. Then she turned and finally saw me standing there. Her expression didn't shift to guilt or apology. It hardened into defiance. A silent "see? This is what a good person does." I didn't say anything, just turned and walked to the living room. The couch was already made up with that gray fleece blanket, a single flat pillow waiting for me. She'd prepared my exile before I'd even agreed to it. I looked at it for a long moment. Then I walked past it, straight to the hall closet where we kept our luggage. I pulled out my duffel bag, the one I used for work trips, and carried it to the living room. Methodically, quietly, I started packing. Clothes from the clean laundry basket, my laptop, chargers, toiletries from the bathroom, my wallet and keys. I could hear them in the bedroom, her voice soft and soothing, his occasional murmured response. At one point, I heard her laugh quietly at something he said. That sound, her laughing with him while I packed to leave, clarified everything. I zipped the duffel, set it by the door. Then I went to the kitchen and found a notepad, the one we used for grocery lists. I wrote 3 sentences. Short, clean, final. "Chloe, enjoy your patient. I'm sure he'll need a lot of care. Don't bother calling. I'm done. Alex." I left the note on the kitchen counter, propped against the coffee maker she'd use in the morning. Then I picked up my duffel, took one last look at the apartment we'd shared for 2 years, and walked out. I didn't slam the door, didn't make a dramatic exit, just left quietly, like I'd never been there at all. It was 2:47 a.m. when I got to my buddy Derek's place across town. He answered on the third knock, bleary-eyed and confused. "Alex? What the? Can I crash here tonight? I'll explain tomorrow." He looked at my duffel, looked at my face, and stepped aside. "Yeah, man. Of course." I slept on his couch, an actual couch this time, not my own bed surrendered to another man. And I slept better than I had in months. The call started at 6:47 a.m. I woke to my phone vibrating relentlessly on Derek's coffee table. 15 missed calls from Chloe. 23 texts. Chloe, Alex, where are you? Chloe, your note. Are you serious right now? Chloe, you left because I was helping a friend? Chloe, this is so dramatic. Call me. Chloe, I can't believe you're being this petty. Chloe, Mark is devastated. He thinks he caused this. I read them all without responding. The audacity was almost impressive. She'd kicked me out of my own bed and was now calling me dramatic for leaving. I blocked her number. By noon, she'd started calling Derek. He sent me a text. She wants your new address. I told her I don't know. You good? Me perfect. Thanks for not folding. Derek? Never. She's insane BTW. The next 2 weeks were a blur of logistics. I stayed with Derek, then found a studio apartment downtown. Smaller than what Chloe and I had, but mine. No shared space. No male best friends sleeping in my bed. Our apartment had been in my name. The lease, the utilities, all of it. I called the landlord, explained I was moving out, asked about breaking the lease early. You have a co-signer? He asked. No. Just me. Then you're responsible for the remaining 6 months unless someone takes over. What if I just stop paying? He sighed. Then it goes on your credit and we start eviction proceedings for whoever's living there. Perfect. I stopped paying rent, stopped paying the utilities, cut off the internet, changed the Netflix password, removed her from my car insurance. Every financial connection we'd had, every little way I'd been supporting us, I severed cleanly. Chloe figured it out 2 weeks later when the lights got shut off. Unknown number. What did you do? The power is off. She'd gotten a new number after I blocked her. I blocked this one too. Unknown number 2. Alex, this is childish. You can't just abandon our home. Our home. The apartment I'd been paying for entirely while she worked part-time at a boutique and poured the rest of her energy into managing Mark's emotional crises. I didn't respond to that number either. Just blocked it. Through Derek, I heard the rest. She tried to get Mark to move in and split costs. He'd declined. Something about needing his creative space and not being ready for that kind of commitment. She tried to take over the lease herself but didn't make enough income to qualify. By the end of month 3, she was served with eviction papers. She moved back in with her parents in the suburbs. The same parents she'd spent 3 years complaining about. The ones who didn't understand her and suffocated her independence. Mark, I heard, had moved on to another woman, actually to Chloe's best friend from work, Sophie. Apparently, he'd been seeing her on the side for months, and once Chloe was no longer convenient, he'd upgraded. Chloe found out on Instagram. Sophie posted a photo of them at some gallery opening, his arm around her waist, the caption dripping with inside jokes. 3 months after I left, my phone rang from yet another unknown number. Against my better judgment, I answered. Alex. Her voice was small, broken, unrecognizable. Please don't hang up. I should have. But curiosity won. What? I made a mistake. A huge mistake. Mark. He's with Sophie now. He ghosted me right after you left. Said he needed space. Then I see them together and I just... She was crying now. I lost everything. You are home, my friends. Everyone thinks I'm an idiot. You are an idiot, I said calmly. You traded a relationship with someone who loved you for a guy who saw you as a convenient place to crash. I know, okay? I was blind. I didn't see what he was doing. But I see it now, and I need you to know how sorry I am. Can we please just talk? Maybe get coffee? No. Alex, please. You kicked me out of my own bed for another man, Chloe. You made me feel like I was the problem for having boundaries. You chose him over me without a second thought. I was confused. I thought he needed me. He didn't need you. He wanted to humiliate me, and you helped him do it. I'll do anything, she sobbed. I'll cut him off completely. I'll go to therapy. I'll prove to you I've changed. You know what's funny? I said, I don't actually care if you've changed. Because I have. What does that mean? It means I met someone. Someone who doesn't make me compete with her male best friend for space in my own life. Someone who actually respects me. The line went silent. You're seeing someone? I'm engaged, actually. Proposed last week. She said yes. I heard her breath hitch, heard the sound of fresh crying starting. How could you move on so fast? I didn't move on fast, Chloe. I moved on the second you told me to take the couch. That's when I realized you'd already moved on from me months earlier. That's not fair. You're right. It's not fair. It wasn't fair when you prioritized him over me. It wasn't fair when you gaslit me into thinking my discomfort was insecurity. It wasn't fair when you made me leave my own home. But you know what? Life isn't fair. And I'm done trying to make it fair for you. Alex, lose this number, Chloe. Don't call again. I hung up and blocked it. That night, I took my fiancée, Rachel, a middle school teacher with a laugh that made rooms brighter, out to dinner to celebrate. Not the phone call, but the fact that I'd finally closed a door that should have been closed the night Chloe opened it for Mark. You okay? Rachel asked, reaching across the table to take my hand. I'm perfect, I said, and meant it, because here's what I'd learned. When someone shows you who they are, believe them the first time. When someone tells you to take the couch in your own home, don't argue. Just take yourself somewhere better. Chloe had made her choice that night. She'd chosen Mark over me, drama over stability, chaos over peace. And in doing so, she'd freed me to find someone who chose me first. Every time, without question, without competition. I'd walked out of that apartment with nothing but a duffel bag and a bruised heart. But I'd walked into something infinitely better. A life where I wasn't constantly proving my worth to someone who'd already decided I wasn't enough. Mark eventually ghosted Sophie too. Moved on to another creative soul. He met at a coffee shop. Another woman who'd let him crash on her couch when his crises became too convenient to resist. Chloe stayed single, last I heard. Still posting cryptic quotes on social media about recognizing red flags and learning to choose better. Still unable to see that the biggest red flag had been her own willingness to sacrifice someone who loved her for someone who just loved using her. As for me, I married Rachel 6 months later. Small ceremony, close friends, no drama. We bought a house with a guest room that actually gets used for guests, not emotional vampires who need saving. And every night, I sleep in my own bed, next to someone who wants me there. Someone who'd never ask me to leave for anyone. Turns out, walking away from someone who didn't value you isn't giving up. It's just making room for someone who does.